Hi, everybody. Mary Long here for Plein Air Painters Chicago. And today we have Andy Conklin, who's going to be our guest artist. And I'm thrilled. This is our first time with Andy as a guest artist. And Andy, I'm spotlighting you here with your cool skateboards in the back.
All right, sounds good.
And Andy, yeah, tell us about those.
Let's see. I've been collecting them after my first trip to Los Angeles. It was a while ago. When I got to LA, I got really excited by the skateboard kind of scene out there. Started to kind of look into that. And so a couple of the boards that I'll just kind of mention, there's two that look like little monsters. If you can see that, this one over here and the one over there. Those are by a guy named Andrew Groves. He's a British illustrator and artist and really fascinating guy. He did a series for a skateboard company where he featured each of the skateboarders on the team, and it's called the Secret Beast series. The one with the skull with the hawk, that's Tony Hawk, obviously. That's a signed board by Tony Hawk. The other one here, the Z-Flex board, that's a Los Angeles-based company, early skateboard company. And then the one behind me over here is Santa Monica Airlines, which is also a local skateboard company, pretty well-known skateboarder and entrepreneur, Skip Engblom. So Skip Engblom shows up he's actually played by Heath Ledger in a movie called, is it not Dogtown and Z-Boys? So anyway, there's a movie where Heath Ledger, one of his last roles before the Joker was to play this guy as a kind of skateboard radical dude back in the 70s.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, Andy, welcome. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about figures in our plein air work. But I thought maybe you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and your art and your background, and just kind of help us know from what perspective then you critique.
Oh, wow. Okay, so my undergrad is at the American Academy of Art. It was in computer design, electronic art design, graphic design, basically. And then my master's is in fine art, so mostly figurative painting from Academy of Art University in San Francisco. And then I studied also at the Art Students League figure painting with a guy named Hilary Holmes, who had studied with this guy named Gamble, very famous Boston painter. And I also studied at the National Academy of Design with Harvey Dinnerstein and Ron Scher, and I also took printmaking there as well. And I've had other instruction from Aaron Schickler, who is a very famous portrait painter who painted Reagan's portrait, Nancy Reagan's portrait, a lot of presidents' portraits, Kennedy's portrait, the one in the White House, and also David Levine, who's a caricaturist. So I had a lot of really good training. And then I was in New York for a long time, over almost 2 decades, working as a painter and a teacher. And I taught at the Parsons School of Design for a while, and also at the New York Academy of Art, which is a graduate program for contemporary figurative artists. And yeah, so I had studios in New York for a long time and studios in Chicago, work primarily with the figure. And I do narrative paintings primarily, paintings with symbolism. There's heavy emphasis on realism, but also the kind of composition, the metaphor, and the kind of realism in terms of texture, color, and light, and so on. I work with natural light. I work with models. I don't work with photography very often. I try to avoid it. I just don't find it very much fun. Nothing wrong with photography. It's perfectly good, but I just don't enjoy painting from photographs. If I can avoid it, I work from life, always from natural light. Don't try to work at night either. So my training is really very traditional. And I like a lot of artists. I like a lot of figurative artists. I like Balthus quite a bit. Eng, Degas, Rossetti. Oh my God, there's so many. Caravaggio is a real big favorite. I think I've seen, between myself and my wife, who's a conservator, who's done a lot of work on old masters, we've traveled all over the world. We've seen every Caravaggio painting except one, which is on Malta, the island of Malta. It's the beheading of the Baptist. Haven't seen that one, but we've seen every single one multiple times, probably. So Caravaggio is a huge inspiration.
Nice. I'd like you to go back just for a second and talk about symbolism and metaphor for a second, and how you think about that. But particularly, do you think there's a place for that in landscape work?
Yes. Yeah, there's definitely symbolism in landscape painting for sure. If you think about the nature of landscape painting, a lot of it is nationalist in a sense. It's highlighting the beauty of the particular nation, and much of it falls under a kind of almost a political kind of category where the artist is trying to show, and often is commissioned to show, the magnificence of a particular part of a country or the particular country.
Like
And that
Soroya. Yeah.
Soroya, yeah, but also, I mean, you could just think of Bierstadt, you know, the American painter, showing the magnificence of the American landscape, almost like propaganda. So there's a lot of symbolism in landscape, tons. You know, there's just, and then there's of course the buildings in the landscapes also symbolize the state or the royal palace. You know, El Escorial in Spain. You know, so yeah, often the buildings highlight what the artist or the commissioner is trying to show that's magnificent about their own personal, you know, ownership of this land or the state or, you know, whatever their clan, their group, whatever it might be. So there's a lot of, yeah, you could deconstruct a landscape pretty easily if you want to go down that road. I'm not big into a lot of deconstruction, but certainly you can read a painting that way.
And when you're thinking about a painting that you're going to do and thinking about the symbolism that you might put in, or the metaphor that you're creating, where does that come into the process? Is that before you start? Is it, you know, and where do you, we often talk about the intention of a painting as you work with in the landscape or whatever. Where does that all fit?
Well, there's at least two things going on there, right? There's the artist intention, right? Which is, let's say I'm at a painting, let's say I look at a painting of the three graces, let's say a traditional Greek subject, right? Ancient Greek subject. Well, now I'm going to do a modern version of that. So, you know, I'll hire 3 models or whatever, and I'll pose them, and I'll kind of do a modern take on the three graces, right? And then, and I might be ironic about it, right? I might make it a little bit funny or put a sly reference to something going on. So there's that, but there's also then the unintended part of the artist's work. So the artist is unconscious of what the artist is doing, and it's only until, you know, maybe the artist is dead, or, you know, time goes by, a year, a decade, you know, 50 years goes by, and someone looks at that painting and said, well, this painting, you know, the artist might have thought they were intending this, but really what they were doing was this. They had no idea that they were carried away by some, whatever the zeitgeist was, or they had personal issues that they didn't resolve, or, you know, that came out in the painting. So there's the unintended, you know, the subconscious things that happen among art, and that's probably the more important one, because what drives a person to do art in the first place? You know, you could say it's a conscious decision, but most artists have this inner drive that compels them, right, pushes them forward to paint, as opposed to doing something else, like doing music, or just being, you know, or not doing any art at all, it's watching TV. So those hidden motivations are also, they're inexplicable, they're hard to really figure out for the artists themselves, but they're there in the work.
I know that personally, I feel I can't really do a painting unless it has some sort of meaning to me, you know, and I go, I need to do it. Yeah.
I mean, well, there's the aspect of practice too. So just like a musician would practice a piece, they might say, well, you know, this piece it doesn't really mean that much to me, but I'm going to practice it. And so some landscape painting, or any kind of painting I might do, might be just in the realm sort of a practice. But just because it's practice doesn't mean you can't make it interesting for yourself. So, and as the things that I paint, I try to be very selective about the things I put in my paintings. And I have a series of paintings that are based on the motion capture technology. And those use very kind of computer-based objects and a modern technology, and their kind of commentary on that whole genre, that whole, I guess that whole industry in a sense. But in that case, I'm choosing objects that are very technological in nature, and the other ones that I do typically are more traditional. So yeah, so I'm selective about what I choose, and yeah, everything should hopefully have meaning.
Mm-hmm. And so tonight, as you are looking at our work, how are you going to be thinking about it? How are you going to, from what perspective?
Well, I'm not going to focus too much on color. I'm not going to focus too much on gesture and brushstroke, although, you know, there's no way to really avoid that stuff. But I thought I would try to come at it from the realm of, or the aspect of composition. So things like line, value, contrast, juxtaposition, emphasis, repetition, um, yeah, that kind of thing. So more of a formal approach to the design of the picture, the design, as opposed to maybe the color use per se, or the gestural kind of brushstroke, kind of approach.
And that you do the figure and portraits. You'll look at some of those things as well in paintings that have.
Well, I mean, I don't know. When I was going through the things that I saw that I think we're going to look at tonight, I didn't really see a lot of figures in there, unless I missed something. But if there's figures, of course, I'm happy to look at them. I'm happy to critique. I mean, technically, I mean, in terms of my own, my own emphasis, I'd be on firmer ground, I think, for myself, looking at figures versus landscape. I don't paint that many landscapes, and I don't do them seriously, as a serious part of my work. It's mostly figures. I'm a lot of interiors. I'm like Degas, I don't really do that many landscapes. Degas wanted to shoot landscape painters. I don't know if you know that.
No.
Yeah, he thought that if he ever saw a landscape painter on his property, he would take his buckshot, and he would shoot at them. He was very contrarian, and I don't know, he didn't really like Monet and Renoir's work all that much. So I think he thought that plein air painting was not a good move. But remember, he had weak eyes. He had eye problems from the Franco-Prussian War, and eventually he went blind. So I think he was very nervous about being outside in the bright sunlight. So there's that going on. Yeah.
That's good to know.
Probably he couldn't have shot anyone because his aim would be so bad,
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that you had something to show us. Is that true?
Yeah, I just want to, let's see, I can screen share, right?
Yes.
Let me just go over just a real quick little PDF thing here. You can see that. I just put together a few images just to kind of show you what I'm looking at, things I find interesting in landscape painting. Now, of course, there's so many great landscape painters, so this is just a very, very small sample of things that I kind of look for. So this first image is by Valeton, Felix Valeton. He's a contemporary of, Gauguin and Van Gogh and so on. He's I guess you call him a post-impressionist, but he's from Switzerland, and he didn't really, he didn't go to Tahiti or anything like that. But you notice in his work a strong emphasis on design and on pushing the emphasis. So you can see that strong diagonal breaks the picture into a really strong complementary color. So a really intensely saturated water and intensely saturated sand in complementary colors. So it's a very clever and very, very beautifully and decorative kind of landscape. Not super naturalistic, but very, very nice. All right, this one unfortunately is very small. This is by Isaac Levitan, the Russian landscape painter. And he's just a phenomenal painter. You talk about a guy who is kind of, bring out the heart of, Russian landscapes. I mean, they just evoke the most beautiful, the most poetic qualities of the Russian landscape. And just the use of the beautiful abstract shape, the negative space right in the center of the picture, very unusual, kind of like a donut hole there. It's really, but it just reflects the big, the brightness of the sky and the calmness of the water and the beautiful quality of the sunset. Phenomenal painter, definitely recommend him. This is a pretty famous painting by Corot. This is the Bridge at Narni, and it's a very unusual and striking painting because of its, again, it's really kind of really intense flash of blue. Unfortunately, this doesn't really bring out the quality of this painting. It's beautiful painting with this intense, this very limited amount of water that's flowing in this very shallow riverbed, and the water reflects that blue, like a striking sudden juxtaposition of that blue among all this warm color down here. It brings the sky down in this little space, very confined space, but it's a very cleverly worked out picture, extremely subtle. This Wyeth, I mean, Wyeth is just all the Wyeth, well, I would say, Andy and Jamie are really phenomenal landscape painters, just really amazing. And what's clever about this picture is the symbolism. If you read about this picture, it's called Groundhog Day. Pretty big egg tempera by Andy Wyeth. And what he does is, he brings the knife shape here, repeating with these diagonals over here. And you see the diagonals in the broken tree log here. And he says that he wanted the German Shepherd, this is his friend Karl Kerner's farm, he wanted Kerner's German Shepherd to be in the picture. He actually sketched it out many times, walking, hunting. And he's like, well, he just couldn't figure out how to get it in there. So what he did was he looked at the teeth of the shepherd, the sharp teeth, and he's like, he noticed that the way the log was split, there's jagged splinters. So he referred to the dog's teeth with the splinters in the log. So there's a kind of, kind of inherent symbolism of that violence in the picture. And then someone like Jamie, Jamie, his son, is just really great at these really unexpected combinations of things. So you have this, New England landscape with the water just hinted at here. And what do you have instead of a boat? You have this bathtub that's out in the middle of the field. So kind of and then again, it has a kind of blue streak of color there that kind of connects that to this. So it's very clever and funny, kind of comical and a bit absurd, but really, really interesting. So unexpected juxtaposition. Same thing here. This is Jamie, this huge, rusting boat, propeller here juxtaposed against the two little dogs in the sky. So that unusual juxtaposition is what really makes a landscape interesting. And then of course you have Homer, who's one of the greats. And so I just put a few Homers in here. You can see his use of compositional emphasis, repeating, he bends nature to his compositional design, right? So he's very clever. He obviously is watching carefully, but of course these are posed pictures. They're composed pictures. They're not as naturalistic as, say, just someone sketching, out in the field. He's worked these things out. This one, the school teacher, and again, the kind of geometric shapes on the board get picked up in all these geometric shapes. Her body is a kind of series of triangles and squares, and the rectangles appear everywhere as well. Or something like this, this two boys here, you get that repeating twinning of everything. There's these doubling of all these lines, very cleverly done. Or this one with the fox and the crow, again, those strong diagonals, suggesting the kind of instability that's going on in the scene, the movement, and so on. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of put those out there. When I'm looking at landscapes, I'm looking at composition, I'm looking for the way the artist is picking up on elements of the picture, of the scene, and reconfiguring nature to get an interesting design, right? Not just taking it passively, but using the elements and maybe rearranging them in a way to bring out the emphasis and to strengthen the visual qualities of the work.
When you were looking at our work, did you have any overall thoughts about it?
I didn't really think of it as a whole group. I didn't think those terms. I didn't really, I didn't say to myself, what do I think of this whole group? I was just looking at individual compositions, individual paintings. So no, not really. I mean, it's in the tradition of Chase, William Merritt Chase, or or the Impressionists, kind of working on the spot, working directly from nature. And like I said, I'm a little bit somewhat skeptical about taking nature directly as it is. I'm a little bit more, in that sense, I'm a little bit more like Degas, in the sense that you kind of take those elements and you rearrange them a bit. But sometimes, it depends on your purpose. So what are you painting for? Do you want to hold a memory of something that you see just as it is, or do you want to make a nice picture that tells a particular story? It's just like the difference between fiction and nonfiction, I guess, right? So a sketch directly from nature without any editing would be sort of nonfiction, right? And if you start to move things around to make a better, stronger emphasis, then you're doing fiction. But fiction's a kind of truth, just like nonfiction is.
Yep, that makes sense to me. And there's also that creative nonfiction where sort of the dialogue is made up, or those kinds of things that kind of add to it.
Sure, of course, yeah, of course. Yeah.
That might be some of the color or whatever.
Right.
So Andy, if you're ready, why don't you bring up the paintings? We do have some questions about the artists that you were talking about. So what I'd like to do is afterward, I'll make sure that I have all the names from you, and we will put that into some of the follow-up information.
Okay, yeah, that's great. That's excellent. So you said Don's was the first up, is that what you said? Okay, all right. So let me just see if my thing works. Yeah, okay, it works there. Okay, good. All right, and you were painting right next to Don there.
Yes, okay. That's my shadow.
Mm-hmm. Good, that's your shadow. All right, I think this is the entire painting. It looks like it got cropped a little bit, but I think that's the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it catches the light beautifully. The composition itself is just a vertical and a horizontal, so it's a strong, a strong grid almost structure. And the balance is asymmetrical, and I think that it works fine. There's not a ton of stuff I would really critique per se here. It's pretty straightforward. It looks like a very accurate evocation of that spot. The receding space on the lake, the color change there is very naturalistic. And he used the less contrast here with that tree in the back to push it back. It's smaller in scale, and it's less chromatic. So pretty textbook example of how you create space. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to say except for that. It's just a pretty straightforward, what seems to be a pretty clear and accurate evocation of light, of that kind of afternoon light, brilliant afternoon light. It's very successful in that regard. I don't know if I need to say any more about that. I think
that's great.
It speaks for itself. Okay, this one's really fascinating. I love the color palette here. Those kind of maroons against the greens. It's really interesting. And then the blues come in the shadow. So yeah, it's got a great palette overall and a great sense of light and shade. And I love the evocation of this statue, I believe it is. Is this a statue or figure? Oh, I think you're muted or something, or do I unmute you? I'm not sure. Oh, there you go. Sorry, Clayton, I can't hear you.
No, that monk actually walked by while I was painting, and
yeah,
happened to take his figure.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So that's the thing. I mean, I think getting the figure into the space is so useful. It creates animation, it creates scale, it creates kind of identification with the viewer. So it's just and it's a great spot. It's a perfect spot because your eye is being drawn down with all these diagonals. So the only thing I was going to mention is that you do have these strong diagonals. There's kind of an N shape to the composition, right? So it goes like that. Maybe you could have broken up this shadow and made it kind of maybe run parallel to this line here. So I would have taken the shadow here, zigzagged a little, and maybe pushed it to really point directly at that figure. It looks like it curves slightly. So I would straighten it out and get that angle to be parallel to this angle. So that way, see this angle here? I don't know if you can see them. Can you, actually, where's that thing? Here it is, right here. Annotate. So here we go. Where's the pen? Where the hell is that thing? There it is. Okay, there you go. So yeah, this and this. So I would have gone like maybe zigzagged it a little bit and pointed it right there, because then you're kind of repeating these strong diagonals. You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, interesting.
Yeah, maybe kind of broken it up with kind of have it cut down and go this way a little bit more. So and then it just draws you right to the viewer right there. So it's really, yeah,
Great
it's cool.
suggestion.
Yeah, it's really great. These diagonals are excellent. Yeah, and then like I said, the palette is really nice, and I love the treatment of the shadow. So, okay, how do I clear that? Okay, clear. I don't know. Okay, is that good? All right, let's see. And then dismiss this.
You have to clear it again.
Yeah, so I got to clear. There we go. Okay, here we go. All right. All right, so yeah, so this is, again, this kind of gets to the heart about what's the painting for. Is this, so the way I could read this symbolically is like death and life, right? So this thing has died or has been killed or whatever, and then there's new life, somewhere else. I almost feel like, I don't know, this thing probably could have used more of that emphasis. I think the composition in terms of the asymmetrical balance is pretty good. But perhaps there could have been some kind of sense of a new life coming in somewhere, or maybe the sense of death re-emphasized with like a trash can or something over here, or some things are hauling away the rest of the tree. I don't know. It depends on what the artist is trying to do here. If you're just recording something like a snapshot, then you don't need that. But if you want to make a statement or say something more about what nature means, right? Because nature always means something in art, right? So this death could have been either reinforced with some more symbols of death and decay, or new life. Maybe there's a sapling or a new tree or something green, even a green object, a bright green object to just new life over here maybe. So it seems like that statement's not clearly made enough. Obviously there's lots of green around here, but it's very muted, And it's appropriate in the background for it to stay muted. But anyway, that's my feeling is it seems like it needs, because it's a lightning strike. So there should be a sense of either death or new life that's reinforced here, if that makes any sense. Yeah, this one has got amazing coloring. I really, really like the coloring on this. Is there a, okay, that doesn't, nothing else to go with it. Yeah, it's, I don't know, it's just, in terms of composition, it's a little hard to read because it's very, contrast wise, it's extremely low in contrast. It's really just a contrast of hue. There's some sky in here. It's pretty densely painted. It's a little hard to read exactly what's going on. It looks like a river, trees, more trees. Not sure if this is a path or a river. Maybe this is not a river. Maybe this is light coming, filtering through.
It's a stream.
It's a stream?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, who's saying that?
The artist, Sharon.
Sharon, okay, all right, good for you. All right, so what is this over here in the very close foreground? Is that the stream too?
There was just some rocks that somebody put across the stream.
So it's like a
On
path
both
you can
sides, yeah.
walk across, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's, I was kind of guessing that, but it's a little hard to tell. So this is not like leaves. This is all just water here, right?
Right, except for the very left side, that's a bank.
Yeah, okay, all right. Anyway, I like the handling. I like the coloring. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you did a nice job with the paint application. I don't know. I mean, would I really recommend any change? Probably not really. Maybe a figure would be nice for scale, but because it's a little hard to tell the scale of things. How big is this tree?
Big.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. It looks very small. I don't know if that's necessary, even important. You look like you're high up looking at this.
I am. I'm on a bridge looking down on it.
Wow. Okay. All right. So
It's not a very tall bridge. I mean, I'm probably
Yeah.
only about maybe 3 or 4 feet above it.
yeah. Okay. You know, I don't know. I mean, it's fine as it is. I don't think I'd really change anything per se. It's pretty. You know, it's very obscure. It's hard. It's hard to read, but that's because the density of the paint application, as well as the composition, makes it, you know, just a really dense picture. So you have hardly any open space. So, but do you need the open space? No, not necessarily. You're in the dense woods, so
Right.
you know, you don't really need to change anything. I mean, you could clarify maybe the shape of this bush a little bit better, possibly. I don't know how much you were thinking about creating depth at all. Was that something you were thinking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when you wanted to create the depth, what did you do?
Well, I guess I originally had that darker area towards the top.
Yeah.
And kind of put some leaves in front of it. That was, you know, further down the stream.
Yeah. Right. I mean, the water lies really nice. I like the way this takes us back. That's great. Over here, you know, it's a little, like I said, that sky is all filled up with trees, and that's fine. It kind of goes back here, but maybe not so successfully. Maybe a cooler shift over there would have pushed that back further.
Okay.
But I don't know. I think it's a cool picture. I mean, I like the way it is. I like the gutsiness of the handling, and I like the color use, and the fact you didn't overwork it. So I don't think I'd really necessarily change anything. Maybe the extreme upper right corner could be maybe a little more clarified. It's a little hard to tell if I'm looking at the background or the foreground there, but I don't know. That's about it. I really don't have anything I'd really change per se.
Thanks.
Sure. Okay. I just want to see if this has no, it does not have. Okay. Some of them have photographs to kind of compare. All right. So let me draw on this thing here. All right. So you have to, here we go. Does this work? No. Hold on. Why isn't it? There we go. Is that it? There we go. Okay, good. So, you know, you've divided the picture, you know, kind of like this. It's a little bit, you know, it's a little bit static. And then this thing is kind of in the center. So there's a kind of static quality to the picture, which, okay, that's kind of calm, I guess, calming, I suppose. But maybe that's not such a great idea to have this all like in the center of the picture, you know, from top to bottom. Maybe the spacing could have been more varied from top to bottom there. Let me clear this. What I do like, which is kind of interesting, is this kind of railroad tie kind of stuff going on here that gets repeated there. It's kind of clever. And I would just say maybe just not centering that from the vertical center, just maybe doing something different with that. Yeah, I don't know. You know, you got good space back here. That looks pretty good. Maybe opening up some sky, maybe a little bit. But again, it's a little bit, you got to be careful because again, your tree masses are also more or less centered. So everything would be centered again. So there's a lot of kind of centering here, which seems unnecessary to me. Maybe a little bit of pushing things off center a little bit to get our eye to kind of look around a little bit. It's a bit static once things get centered and symmetrical. There's not a lot of opportunity for eye movement, it seems to me. Yeah, that's all I'd say. Again, kind of the, you know, these shapes here are kind of the same, so you maybe want to avoid that. Try it a little bit asymmetrically. Let me just clear that again.
Thank you. That helps.
Sure. Okay, Anne, this is terrific. I don't know, are you here, Anne? I don't know if you're here tonight. Yeah, this is nice gestural quality to this. It's kind of what I would say like a vignetting. In the painting, it's all kind of the center. It's almost like we're kind of like a hazy, it's like a dream where it's all in focus here and it fades out as we get to the edge. It's that kind of vignetting quality. You got to be careful with that. But generally, I think it works well because you've got the strongest contrast in this nice spot here off center with that flash of blue, the white, the vertical movement of this tree. You know, the tree is a little bit obscure down here. It would have been maybe better to have a little more clarity on the way the tree hits the ground. But yeah, it has a nice kind of quality to it. I don't know if the oil on panel. All right, so yeah, need some light here. Hold on. There's the light. Yeah, okay. I mean, I think it's fine. I like this bush here pushes forward with some more detail and a nice edge there. So that kind of pushes this to the foreground and pushes the house to the background. Maybe a little more clarity on the roof of the house. It kind of gets lost a little bit. It's a little hard to tell what the shape of the house is. So maybe a little more clarity there, but it has a nice kind of grid structure. And like I said, that focal point's in a good spot. All right, this is a cool one. This is nice. And again, let's try it again here with my annotate thing here. I don't know, this annotate thing is weird. Where's the, sorry, I'm having trouble with this tool here. There it goes, okay. All right, there we go. All right, so obviously there's this strong, you know, the sense of the gun, and then this thing here, and this thing over there, which is great, right? So that's, you got all these repeating lines here, which makes the image, I think, interesting. And then you got the contrasting shapes here. Yeah, it works pretty well. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not. I'm trying to think if there's a way to maybe get a little more contrast over here, possibly, you know, possibly darkening the foliage or something. It's a little hard to tell what I'm looking at. Is that's a cliff or foliage there? Possibly a little bit more darkness and maybe having it getting lighter as it goes up so that we get a little more contrast with that gun. And so the barrel, because right now the emphasis is here. And I think the emphasis maybe could be over here on the the business end of the gun, perhaps rather than this part of the gun. So maybe a little more darkening of this cliff or whatever here and have it fade out a little bit more. But yeah, composition is very clever in terms of this repeated horizontal, you know, format. Elements. Sorry, clear. Okay. And there's the setup there, yeah. Yeah, so there was some opportunity to put something, there's something dark right there. Maybe that might have been nice to juxtapose over there. Kind of push things around to get the emphasis on the end of the gun. All right, this one is very cool. I like the curvy shapes. This one, there's a photograph here to go along with it. You can see those very unusual trees. And again, let's go to the annotate thing here. I don't understand this thing. There it goes, okay. Yeah, there's this kind of swoopy shape going like this, and there's this, and this is coming around this way. And then you got this over here, and maybe a little more curving over there. So maybe, maybe emphasizing those curve forms even more specifically, maybe pushing them even more, might have been nice. It's kind of curves this way. So there's a lot of these rounded shapes that you've got here, maybe pushing that even a little further, maybe rounding off these shapes on the ground, even though they're not specifically, technically the way they look, but just to emphasize that kind of curvy quality. You can look up someone like August Macke. Let's see, I put it here. August Macke. He's a German expressionist painter. He did some landscapes like this with these kind of curving tree forms. Really interesting artist. He died kind of young. Really a very good artist though. Okay, I don't know who did this one. Someone's in a lot of trouble here. All right, so this is a great subject. Okay, you're drawing away here. All right, so this is a good subject. There it is, Tony Subs. I don't know where this is, but you're painting this at night?
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. So I like the reflection on the, is it a wet pavement or just a normal pavement?
A normal pavement.
Okay, normal pavement. All right, so the light's strong enough it gets reflected. So, oh, shoot. I can never get this thing to behave properly. There we go. Oh, wow, okay, now it's a different thing. Okay. All right, sorry about that. I'm just technically, it's challenging me. So you got the reflection. Your reflection seems like it's moving too far over here and it's weirdly diagonal. Why is that? Why isn't the reflection just, like the roof line is horizontal. So why is that going diagonally? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Okay.
Okay, what you need is a car. You need a car, right? Or a cars. You need some automotive something, right? Is this like a drive up or something? What is this?
Yeah, and actually, I think if you look at there was a car there.
Oh yeah, there's a photo there. Yeah.
There's a cop there that's always there.
Oh, well, even donuts or whatever.
I'll put him in. Yeah. Oh, I didn't show it. It's not in this one.
Okay, not in there. Okay. Yeah, so you need, it's too empty. You need the car to, let me clear this out, clear all that. Yeah, because first of all, it can repeat the shape on a smaller scale. This shape here can get repeated on a smaller scale there, which is always nice. And also it just adds that element of scale to the thing so we can kind of tell how big the building is. And also it adds that human touch and it gives a sense of its purpose. Like, what the hell is this? The lights are on, no one's there. It doesn't make any sense to me. So there should be some evidence of like customers or car or whatever, right? And then you've got this shape here. This, what is this over here? What is this, bushes or something, or tree line? What is that?
In the back, there's a tree line and there's also the electrical wire.
Electrical wire. Electrical wire. Okay, what do you mean electrical wire? There's like a wire that goes across the picture? Yeah, you should make that more explicit, right? Is there a telephone pole or something? Is there some other?
There's not, but.
Yeah, you want it so you can repeat that because you got these verticals here and then the horizontal across. It's like a big H, right? It's like a giant letter H. And you could repeat that over here by having, or, like a pole or something and then a wire going across. And I don't know, it just seems like you could emphasize that, the structural quality. Is this diagonal? Does it get lower? Does the roof get lower?
Yeah, it's really low in the back.
Yeah, okay. All right, that's fine. That's good. Yeah, okay, that's fine. It's a little hard to tell because it looks like your perspective is you're forcing your perspective, but I think that's just me not reading it very well. Yeah. Is there anything on the side of the building?
No.
Nothing. No trash cans, no dumpster, anything like that?
No, on the other side, I tried to put it there. There's an umbrella that I probably could move, that's closed. It's down.
All right. Well, no, I see the umbrella. That's okay. Maybe I was just looking for something for perspective to kind of show this is a a low roof, not a forced perspective, but that's okay. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the car should be here, but there should be something else here. Now you also divided your picture into thirds, you know, from top to bottom, more or less. Like this is sort of equal to this, which is sort of equal to this. And you sure you want to do that? I mean, maybe you want to be more, you know, maybe you want to be a little bit more specific. It's like if you want to show the loneliness of this scene, right? Then what you want to do is you want to push this up, right? You want to push this higher, and you want to show more empty parking lot, more empty, because to show, oh, look at that, the vast emptiness of the parking lot. That's the point, right? So by doing this, you're kind of hedging your bets. Like, who cares about the sky? It's not that important. You push the building back and you show us more parking lot, much more dramatic. All right, look at some Ben Sean, all right? Here, let me just clear this here. Look at some Ben Sean for you, if I can just get this damn thing to finally, I don't know, I can't get rid of the stupid drawing tool. It just,
Yeah, you have to keep.
oh, I gotta turn everything off. It's very clunky. And Sean, he does a really good job with empty space, right? He does like New York City playgrounds. You might want to look at that.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, this is Susan. So this, Susan, I guess this is your thing, and this is your motif, and this is your painting. All right, so yeah, there's like a break in the stone wall, maybe. Yeah. All right, so you got this. You got like a tangent where the tree juxtaposes against like the wall. You probably want to show, I don't know, I gotta use this tool again, which I hate. Why does it always ask me? I don't, just, okay. So, you know, you've got, your break in the wall happens right where this branch comes in, and that's not so great here. It's almost like the tree is being squeezed in between the break in the wall. You got to find a way to do it maybe differently. You can either have some of the, you know, the stone go beyond, so we could see the empty space beyond the branch here. Maybe push this further back and open up this opening bigger, because it's very unfortunate the way these things are bumping into each other, as if the tree just fits into that gap. And you don't want to do that, because you're creating, you're taking away clarity of the foreground from the middle ground. They seem like they're in contact, where they're not. This is in front of this. So I would maybe open up the stone and then open this up a little bit more and just shift things around so there's overlap.
Okay.
You need the overlap there, okay?
Great.
All right. And also it feels like you're kind of forcing the tree shape into this. I don't know, something about this kind of squared off quality of the foliage, which is a little bit strange. You want to maybe break that up and get it to feel like it's not being hemmed in by the painting, by the frame of the painting. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was having a problem with that left side where you were just at, so I wasn't sure how to finish that off. The left.
Well, you
side.
want the foliage to go exit out the right hand side of the page. Is that what you're asking me about?
No, on the left side of the painting. Yeah,
Yeah.
right there. I wasn't sure how to handle that. If it should be darker or what. Or
Yeah.
just,
Well, let's see. Let me look at your motif again here. Okay. Yeah, it is a little bit, I don't know, I'd probably make less contrast. I would make the foliage here on the front tree darker and have this be lighter and grayer, so it pushes back. I think that's probably what I would do there.
Maybe extend the tree across.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, not too much, a little bit.
The right-hand tree, so it comes forward, because like you're saying.
Yeah, where's the light coming from? The right or the left?
It was coming from the right.
Coming from the right, you said?
It was really, yeah.
But it's kind of overall, right?
It was real quick. It was already, I lost the light by the time I was through. I had the picture lower down, but yeah.
Yeah.
It was quick looking light.
Yeah, I mean, maybe extending the foliage a little bit, more contrast, make this stuff stronger, brighter, more intense, and then this tree less intense, a little grayer, just push it back. I mean, it's not causing a lot of problems, because most of the emphasis is over here.
Right.
So this is not really, or you just take this tree out and just show the blue water, you know, and just forget about this tree, you know, just have it a bush, make a bush out of it and show some blue water. That'll open up the space a little bit more. That might be nice, because it's a little claustrophobic over there.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, and this is the problem with landscape. You have to, with nature, it's often does things weirdly and you have to kind of fix it, you know. All right, so Deanna Moore Schoolcraft. Okay, this is nice. Okay, I mean, it's just a pretty straightforward rendering of this building with a little bit of context here. You know, yeah, it's nicely done. You know, the composition is good. I like the way you put this other barn building in there. You know, I don't know. I don't really see any. It's a little bit. Well, no, that's okay, I guess. It's a bit flat in terms of like, you know, that silvery gray that's throughout everything. You know, this is the thing. It's like, yeah, these buildings are this corrugated steel or whatever it is. I don't know. It's a kind of a one note, you know, in terms of color. The design is fine. There's really no problems with the design. This crops off nicely. This is spaced kind of nicely. Again, it's a little bit the same thing that I was, you know, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but like, you know, in terms of the layout, it's the same thing with if I can just get this pencil to work for me, that'd be awesome. It's again, that same kind of breaking up everything into like 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 sky, 1/3 kind of middle ground, 1/3 foreground. You know, why, you know? What are you trying to, where do you want the emphasis to be? The buildings, the crop growing, the sky? It feels like you kind of like, oh, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and I'm good. But I think you want to push the emphasis a little bit more in one or the other. So you want the buildings are going to come lower, get bigger, lose a little of this. You want the bounty of the harvest, push the harvest, you know, push the field higher, get the buildings farther back and a little bit smaller and cut out some of the sky. You want to show the Midwestern sky, push the buildings down, get rid of this stuff over here, make it a Dutch landscape, you know, Dutch landscape, which is mostly sky, right? So the flatness of, you know, Holland is super flat, right? Holland has no hills. It's like below sea level. So Holland in Dutch paintings of the Golden Age, there, you know, there's mostly sky. The landscape is way, way down at the bottom to emphasize the flatness of the land and the hugeness of the sky. So it kind of depends on what you want to emphasize here. And I'm not sure that I'm clear on.
Probably the buildings more. Yeah, I get you. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So something to think about, right? In terms of composition.
Sure. Yeah.
Because people read the composition, they read meaning into it. Even if they're not thinking that they're reading meaning, they're reading it in there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, this is a beautiful weeping willow. Yeah, it's a very kind of, it's a very active, almost nervous kind of application of paint. It's very vibrant and kind of like sort of charged with a lot of energy. This is more of a kind of a placid scene. There's like light and shadow falling all over the place. It's a lot of intense little bursts of observation and application. So, all right, so compositionally what's going on here is this is really Adam and Eve, all right? So this is a picture of Adam and Eve. This is either Adam, this is Eve. I don't know which one is which, but you've got basically, you know, a biblical scene from Genesis. You've got these two trees. One's this one, one's this one. They're in the middle. In the middle is a gap. You know, every painting of Adam and Eve is pretty much the same composition as this. So what do you want to do here? Is the emphasis on the tree differences or is the emphasis on the space? It seems like you got to make that a little bit clearer because, you know, you have this one tree that's very droopy and this one tree that's very kind of energetic. And maybe you're sort of suggesting that, but you've got so much energy in both these trees that you're not getting that difference, the contrast, which I think would be kind of interesting to get the weeping willow tree to be very, very subdued and to get this oak tree or whatever maple to be much more energetic and you can say masculine, whatever, it's, you know, aggressive. This one is more quiet and passive. Maybe you want to bring that out more in terms of meaning and then de-emphasize this stuff. I don't know what this is. Get rid of that, you know, forget about this activity in the foreground, but focus on the trees themselves and their differences in personality, almost a study in personalities. Yeah, I mean, that's what I would do. As long as you're going to keep this composition symmetrical, then you might as well just bring out the personalities of the two subjects. Okay, and this one with the Adirondack chairs. And the photograph's a little tricky here. Yeah, so there's the suggestion of human presence and a conversation, absent conversation in the woods here. it almost feels like camouflage. I'm looking at camouflage here, the way this paint is applied. This really looks a lot like camo. What I would do, I don't know. I think here's the thing, like in composition and in art, odd numbers are preferable to even numbers. So 3 is better than 4, 2 is not as good as 5. What you can do here, instead of like, okay, there's a nice and evenly arranged, which is fine, it's very democratic, but you don't want to be so democratic. What you want to do is you want to pull one chair away from the others so that you got the one leader and the other person, the followers or the listeners. Someone's talking, other people are listening, but in this one, no one's listening or talking, they're all equal. And equality is great in life, but in painting, it's not so great. So what you want to do is pull one chair out, away from the others, and have it either maybe turning a little bit towards as if this was the speaker and these people are the listeners, and they just got up and went and got to get another beer or something like that. Because the human story is not really brought out as well as it could be. There could be more of a narrative sense of, somebody's in charge, somebody's the focal point of this scene, if that makes any sense. Okay, Lori, you're painting the, is this the Newberry, maybe? Newberry Library?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, so here you are, a spy from Russia, taking secret pictures of the Newberry Library. It looks like you're hiding in the bushes, sneaking a picture of the Newberry Library. Is there a reason why this is so kind of surrounded by foliage on all sides?
Well, I work for the KGB, so.
Okay, yeah, okay. I see the feeling now you've just been exposed, okay. So
I wanted to get like both windows in, but as I was painting, it just didn't happen,
Okay, fine.
But I wanted to get that sky reflection was the big thing, so.
Yeah, and that's great. I think that's, I see that's very effective. In composition, it's like a donut, basically. You have this kind of open space in there, but it is that kind of sense of like you're spying on them. And, it's like you're like a peeping Tom or something like that from 50 yards away or whatever. So there's a bit of a sense of like clandestine observation in this painting, the way I read it. It feels like you just kind of like you're just filling this stuff up a little bit, like you almost hid your problem by like, I'll just cover it with some foliage and nobody will know. But you don't have to do that. Let the other window be unfinished. That's great because they'll draw the eye to the finished window. So that would be my suggestion.
It's a little too square, right? The composition, like.
I mean, yeah, it's a little bit, yeah, it's somewhat, I mean, I'm not going to use the word boring, but yeah, it's like you got like everything's like right down the center here. So, it's like it's symmetrical. And does it have to be, again, especially since you want that kind of off the cuff kind of quality, maybe you want to push this to the right a little bit. And then this one kind of, shows up and it's like half rendered here. You don't have to, everything has to be rendered, you can just render one window.
So it'd probably be better to get rid of the foliage on the lower left and just make that window stronger, and at least then I would have more.
Yeah, I think so. That foliage, this foliage over here is, I don't know what it seems like it's it seems a bit artificial, but there are things like Foley's, things in the movie industry where they do put fake branches in front of the camera to kind of give it a sense of space. So it does help to push the building back because it's closer, but it does feel like you are, it just feels like you're kind of framing it in a really kind of easy solution way. And that's maybe not so useful. So, because the balance, I think, is the problem. So I would probably get rid of this foliage and,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and then just let the building kind of go off and let it crop off and let it be unfinished over here. There's no shame in letting it be a rough, letting the sketch be kind of sketchy. That's fine.
I have a question for you. So if you see in the photograph, there's this branch that cuts across that I really like, but I decided not to put it in. But I wonder if I should have put it in because I kind of like.
Let me just get to that. Hold on. I gotta...
See that boom branch?
This large diagonal branch here. Yeah. This one. This like brown, this really dark shape. No, because there's no context. It doesn't. If you painted that, half the people would have thought that's like, what is that? Is that like a wire? Is that like, it almost like, it's so straight, it's almost like a electrical cable or something. it doesn't really read very well. I would not put it in just by itself, just in that way. Unless it's attached to a tree trunk, I wouldn't put it in. It's unusually long and narrow. It doesn't seem to, it seems like it has to belong to a tree, but there's no tree that it belongs to. So no, I would not recommend that. It doesn't really help your design at all because it doesn't repeat another diagonal. So there's no other diagonal it picks up. The eye is going to pick up on repetition. People, repetition is such a powerful psychological component. I mean, think about every pop song has repetition, and that's what makes it so catchy, right? So in visual repetition, it's shapes and colors and things that repeat. So there's nothing else doing that in the picture, really. So no, I would not put it in unless you can find another repeating diagonal to kind of play it off of. The architecture is so interesting as it is. You don't need that. I mean, what you're doing here is you're juxtaposing nature versus culture. You have the building versus nature, the randomness of the trees versus the architectural, bold and clear design. So, that's what you really want to be playing with. So I would, in that sense, you could push the building over to the left, make the tree on the right a little bit more robust, and therefore you've got that foreground, background, nature, culture kind of division. And then get rid of this, forget about this tree over here because it's just
chop it down. Okay.
Yeah, chop it down, just move on, because again, it makes you look like you're sneaking in the bushes a little bit. It makes it look like something shady, like you're hiding from the building, which maybe it's a dangerous building and they're spying on you. I don't know what's going on here, but yeah, it looks somewhat mysterious and clandestine unnecessarily. So it's a pretty tough thing to paint. I mean, how much time did you have to work on this?
Well, we just painted the normal 3 hours or something, and then I touched it up at home a little bit.
Yeah. So architecture is tough. Normally, if I'm painting architectural elements outside, I bring along a ruler and I bring along a pencil, a straight edge, and then maybe in this case, I might even be tempted to bring along something that curves. It's like a trace it or something. The compass probably wouldn't really work in this case because it's not a perfect circle, but a flexible curve maybe is nice, or a French curve. French curve would be really useful if you have those that help you draw out those shapes, those curvy shapes in pencil before you paint them, or on top of the paint once you put it down. So a French curve can be helpful for some of those precise curves. Yeah, it's a tricky one though. That's a challenging one. Okay, now Steve, this is looking really good. Let's see, we're almost at 8 o'clock, so maybe should I just do this one, Mary, and then we'll take a break? So a lot of energy in this one. It's some kind of crazy tree. I don't know what the heck this tree is, but it's real.
It's an old willow tree.
That's a willow tree. It looks like it blew up. It's like an exploding willow tree. It's got a lot of energy to it. It's kind of going all over the place. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, you really caught that energetic quality to this tree. Is this a small painting?
It's a 12 by 16.
Okay, well, not that small. And is it oil? It's oil, yes. Right? Yeah. Yes. You scraped away to kind of reveal the ground there?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's right in the center. It's like an explosion of paint right in the middle of the painting. So it's just it's right dead center, and it's just kind of exploding forward like a bomb going off. So, it's got a lot of gesture. It's got a lot of dash. It's got a lot of nice kind of paint handling. It's very fresh. So, it seems to work pretty well. You got a nice crop off here, so it's not feeling like it's constrained by the frame or the canvas. And you have this dark here to kind of silhouette the brightness of this kind of foliage kind of popping out. You kind of emphasize that a little bit more, which is good. It's pretty cool. I'm not quite sure what's happening here. Is this a shadow or something? But
yeah, it's a shadow going down an embankment.
Is the light coming in from the left?
It's coming in from the right.
From the right. But then the shadow is also on the right. So the shadow is not from the tree then. Oh, it's from something else.
Yeah, those are other trees.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe because the thing is, when you're looking at the picture, you see the light coming in here. You don't see the trees, and then this doesn't. If this is an embankment kind of sloping thing, maybe you wouldn't really get a shadow there. So maybe it would have been better to forget about those shadows there.
Yeah.
And let the shadow here do the job, because unfortunately the shadow in the foreground and the shadow in the middle ground are merging together visually a little bit, and that's bringing this middle ground close, and we want to probably push that back. So I love the way this light goes behind the tree here. So this kind of strong shadow maybe is a little bit too much. Maybe just forget about it. Yeah.
Good. Good.
Okay. This is two different people, John and Mary Hines. Okay. there we go.
John Hines.
I'm sorry?
John Hines.
Okay. All right. So I thought they worked on this together. That would be a lot of fun. All right. So it's kind of this person's put a figure which looks like a statue, or it's a nude. It looks like a bathing figure there. All right, so you have this again. It's I come back to this kind of idea, the Adam and Eve kind of composition. There's a sense of, there's this strong sense of, this shape here versus this shape here. You can almost see this as kind of male, and this is kind of female. If I don't want to be so crude, but basically, there's this kind of symbol here, and there's this shape over there, and then there's just empty space in between, and you get the little figure there. And there's kind of a crisscrossing element here. And then you have this background. There's a kind of nice sense of space in here. I really like the sense of I would say the middle ground and the background are beautifully handled. The foreground is not bad. This is kind of cool with the shadow that comes over here and this little bit of what looks like a creek maybe. This is maybe a little too strong in terms of a triangular shape here, but it does overlap nicely with this shape here. So there's a good recession of space, very sophisticated recession of space, and a smaller tree over here. I think this tree is a little bit unfortunate. It's kind of squared off, but again, that juxtaposes with this kind of round shape here. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this picture. But I don't know, maybe I think this could be a little bit handled, maybe not so geometrically. And maybe this is the foliage from this little tree back here. I don't know, I just feel the squareness of that is a little odd, and it feels like you're just squeezing it in there. So maybe, a more graceful tree with leaves that kind of exit out the frame and don't run vertically like this would work better. But yeah, it's kind of a cool picture, and that use of the figure in there is really nice, very evocative. So yeah, kind of cool. It really made something out of kind of a mundane reference. All right, so this is, I'm not sure what this building is. Beautiful building though. If anybody knows what that building is, let me know. Oh, there's Mr. Hines, there you are. All right, so this one is nicely handled. It has almost a kind of a Cezanne-esque kind of quality to it. It's very, these colors, that Cezanne red brick with the green and the yellow and this beautiful orange here. There's a real kind of nice handling here that's very fresh and very lively. Really much better than this kind of the darkness of that photo reference.
It's the Cardinal's Mansion.
Yeah, Cardinal's Mansion. I was going to say it's something. This repeating arch shapes are really nicely handled. So this is Robin Strand. Okay. Yeah, and then you got this kind of fountain, set against that dark space here. So that makes a nice focal point. The asymmetrical balance is pretty good. Yeah, it's really cool. It looks a very lively picture. Again, if I could just go back again and just talk about the composition here. Let's see if I can get this thing to work. I don't really like this thing very much. Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay, so again, it's the same kind of thing. The same criticism I had earlier is that there seems to be a tendency for people to divide these into 3 equal zones. And if you can just be aware that that's happening and maybe just question that, like, do you really want to have your picture split into 3 horizontal zones? Foreground, middle ground, I guess sort of background for lack of a better word. Maybe it's better to make these asymmetrical and maybe just not make them so symmetrical. Decide where the emphasis is going to be. Is it going to be on the object? Is it going to be on the foreground? Is it going to be in the background? Is it on the space? It is on the structure? And then emphasize that by making it either bigger or smaller. Just always be aware of what you're doing with your use of the division of space. Okay, Linda, this is Linda Brown. Yeah, this is your eye is sort of drawn in nicely here. with that. Okay, I guess this is working now. There we are. So the path is kind of cool. It takes us over here, and then we kind of ping pong back this way. And then I guess we kind of maybe go off this way a little bit. And there's this over here. So these strong kind of diagonals. Sorry about my drawing here. And then of course you have these verticals that kind of repeat. And it's a nice asymmetrical balance. She seems like a somewhat high vantage point, strangely enough. It's almost like she's climbed a tree and is looking at this, or she's on a ladder or something. There's a little bit of a high vantage point, which is kind of interesting.
I was on a hill, but not a ladder.
You're on a hill. Okay, yeah, it has that quality. Yeah, just really, it's quite nice because the background, occupies a small space, and then this middle ground is over here. This breaks up, so it's it's more asymmetrically divided, which I think is quite nice. The only thing it lacks would be like, maybe a person or a dog or a deer or something, like maybe, or some evidence of human something or animals, or I don't know, it feels like it's almost like a stage set that's ready to have some actors on it or something like that. But it's nicely handled, and the light's quite good, and the shadows are really good. Perhaps just a little more, I don't really want to talk about color too much, but maybe just a little more variety of color as you get closer to the foreground, maybe more purples in the green to kind of, or blues and purples to kind of pull this foreground a little forward and make it a little bit more colorful, so that it kind of, because you have the same greens all throughout, and that flattens it a little bit. So doing something more interesting with the greens over here as opposed to the greens over there and over there is going to push that foreground forward. And that could, like I said, that could even be a person. You could have a person lying in the down here on a blanket that says blues or purples or something that's going to that's going to maybe push that foreground forward. A couple people sitting there, or a bicycle, or just something, I don't know, maybe there's a way you can put something in there that's going to help the color for the picture and kind of get it so it's not quite as monochromatic. But other than that, it's a really nice design to the picture.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Nice handling on that too. Okay, this is really exciting picture, and there we go. It's that tree, some kind of very, very exuberant tree, and you've really caught that exuberance nicely. It's almost a palm tree the way you're handling it. And like the other one, it's almost exploding with life. It's kind of bursting with energy, which is really cool. It's kind of bursting the bounds of the frame. It's asymmetrically placed, which I think is kind of nice, a little off center, which is good. And there's some kind of rocks or something here. I'm not sure. Oh, it's a police car. Is that a police car? I'm not sure what that is there, but you've converted to something else more abstract. And you have a wall here, a fence. Yeah, it's the light. The sense of light is really nice. It's really clear, bright daylight with these really kind of, the sun's hitting the foliage here, and you get these deep purples and blues in the shadow. Yeah, it's just a pretty exuberant, kind of intense work. Very fresh, nice. Just I think in terms of composition, it works pretty well. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Andy.
You're welcome. Yeah, you really made something exciting out of it. Like I said, just kind of a mundane thing. The interpretation's good. Patricia, I think there was a photograph. I thought there was a photograph reference somewhere in here. Maybe it was earlier. I think it might have been earlier one where you had a photo reference of this. It's like a rainwater barrel or something. I don't know if
Yes.
Patricia, are you here, Patricia? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So it's a rainwater barrel, and it's filling up with rainwater then. And it's on a fence, and this fence is sort of an open gate or something. There seems to be, the gate seems to be open. There's a gate here, and there's another gate over there, but they're not connected. Am I reading this correctly? Maybe.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine
Okay.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, they're gates.
And so the gate is open, right?
Yes,
And so the horses can just escape, right?
probably.
Okay. All right. All right. So
Cows, horses, whatever.
cows and
Yeah.
horses. Now this is a hose that's going from the house to the rainwater barrel, or what's happening there?
This is at Heritage Farm in Schaumburg,
Okay. And so
and all the animals are gone.
The animals are gone. Okay, that's good.
And because, they're taking care of them, but, it was just sort of nobody there except for people looking around.
Okay, that's good.
And so it has this abandoned sort of feel to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now, so you've got this, so the hose, is that water going in or out of the barrel?
I don't know that really there was any water in it.
Oh, wow.
I made up the hose. There was a hose there, but the hose was going a different direction and it was black. And I wanted to, give some sort of detail. So I added the hose, and put some color with it so that at least you saw it.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah. So the question, the question to me becomes, what is the purpose of the hose in this picture? What is the reason?
I wanted the eye because there's all these like horizontal
mm-hmm.
angle slats.
Yes.
And I wanted the hose to bring your eye to the barrel.
Mm-hmm.
Like the barrel's light and dark and light, and then the hose comes out and disappears, sort of.
Yes,
so I kind of wanted some movement in that, some organic movement against the fence, angle movement.
Right. Okay. That makes sense to me. Okay. Now I want to make a couple points though. Okay. First of all, the barrel doesn't need anything pointing to it. It's just so obvious. It's so huge, right? There's no way we can miss it. So it's not like it needs help. It's got a lot of contrast. It's got a huge shape. It's it's in the foreground. It's right near the bottom of the edge of the picture. So it's pretty obvious. So when I read that hose, I'm thinking, okay, so this hose is either bringing like life to the baby. It's like a baby being fed by its mom, or the hose is drawing the life out of it and killing it or something like that. Like either it's feeding it or it's taking it. So it's subtracting or adding, right? It's doing something. It's feeding it. All right. So, so that's the thing. I think that having it just disappear obscurely is a bit ambiguous psychologically speaking. And it might have been nicer to kind of show us what it's doing. The other thing that with the hose, you could show it a lot more hose. So you could have the hose kind of coming over here and then going around the back of this thing and exiting out the picture. So I would have given us more, because you want to move the eye around. That's perfect. It'll move the eye around, but you don't have much of it. You just have this one inverted V shape and that's it. So you want to move the eye, have it go this way and that way and the other way, and your eye will follow it anywhere, right?
So the linear elements don't do that?
Well, you mean the gate?
Yes.
Yeah, the gate moves the eye back and forth. That's fine. But you want the eye to travel like in all kinds of crazy directions. It's going to follow the line of the hose for sure.
Okay.
You said you wanted an organic shape against all these geometric shapes, right? Well, then you have it looping over this and going over that and on the ground and coming up or whatever. And you just, you kind of show what it's doing. Because and then just looking at it, I see it as a rainwater barrel. So maybe the rainwater's flowing into the barrel. So maybe you have a house in the background. You show a little bit of a building. So the person puts 2 and 2 together. There's a building, there's a rainwater barrel, there's a hose. Okay, that's obviously a rainwater barrel. The rain's feeding off the roof into the barrel. In that case, maybe you move the barrel over to the left, or I don't know, you do something, but you got room. You could put a bit of a building structure back here. You have to think about what's the person going to read? What are they going to take away from this when they see this juxtaposition?
A beautiful barrel.
Well, yeah, okay, it is a beautiful barrel, but
I don't know. I mean, I feel like if I put all that in there, it's going to get really busy, and maybe. It's kind of like, simplicity.
Well, yeah, but you don't need much. You don't need much. All you need is a suggestion of a building over here in the right corner. This is the side of a building, something like that, some kind of suggestion. Okay. And then the hose just needs to, well, it looks like it's ducking behind a bush or something. Just have it, you can exit out the frame, or it can here, I'll just draw it. So it'll just,
okay.
See if this thing is going to work here. I don't know. This thing is annoying.
Tell more story.
I mean, it's just gonna go like this, and maybe just, it's maybe gonna, no, that didn't draw well. Here, let me see. I want to get it on the ground, and then it can just exit out the frame, and then you got a little bit of a side of a building over here. I don't know, maybe you got a little bit of a roof line or something. You just got like some kind of building over here. So the person they put 2 and 2 together. They see like a building, they see the barrel, they see the thing, and they're like, oh yeah, maybe these are connected. So we just see the hose maybe just doing a loop and then exiting out the frame, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. unless you wanted it to loop around this way and, you know, go over here. And so
Yeah.
that you don't have to do that, but you could have it go up the thing and then go over this and exit out the frame over the second railing. It could do that too. So you got options, you know. Hose is super flexible. They can do all kinds of cool stuff, and you got lots of options with that hose. You know, once you introduce it, you gotta use it. You know?
Okay.
Yeah, you're bound to. It's like what's his name? Who's the Russian playwright? Once you put the gun on the stage, you know, someone's got to shoot it, right? Who's that?
Yeah, I get
Who's
your
that
point.
Russian playwright?
That's
Said that. Yeah. So there you go. All right, Richard, this is, okay, just the one
Thank
image
you.
here. You're welcome. All right, so it looks like maybe a self-portrait with a camera, or maybe it's a picture of somebody else. And okay, and you're kind of standing there with the camera, and there's a tree, or there's some trees. You know, I think, yeah, there's a nice touch to this. I love the way the ground is handled with the dappled light, and the freshness of the brushwork is really quite good. I'm a little less taken with let's see this thing again here, with the tree kind of almost, I don't like that line. Let's do this other one here. This tree is sort of coming out of this person like a tail or something. It's a little unclear what's happening with this tree behind you. You seem to be connecting the tree and the person. So maybe that's, you know, you got to be careful about that. Maybe you want to shift yourself over, shift the tree over, so we can see exactly what's happening with that tree. It's hard to figure out where it's coming from. These trees are on the other side of the fence, which makes sense. This tree is on this side, but then where's the rest of where's the base of this tree? Where's the shadow of it or whatever? A little unclear. I just can't quite read this tree. And the way it's, you know, intersecting with the figure is a bit strange. This is where, you know, moving around a little bit can help you kind of clarify that space. You know, I like the way this kind of frames the head there. That's nice. So it's cool, but this tree is I would say it's ambiguous spatially, what's going on with this tree and its relationship to the person. Okay, and let's see this. Okay, very ambitious, Cynthia. The Red Lion. Where is this? Where is this? England or Ireland or something?
London.
London. Okay, yeah, I was gonna say London. Okay, so yeah, you got a lot going on in this thing, kind of thing. You're really. What were we trying to aim here? What were we trying to do with this picture? What did you want to do?
Well, it's a photograph. I did paint it outdoors, but it was a photograph someone sent to me recently of that they took to London, and she wanted to have that red lion painted for her husband for their anniversary.
Nice.
So
okay.
I kind of did a likeness of the two of them walking, and kind of tried to eliminate a lot of the other people in it because I thought that was distracting.
Yeah.
And okay, anyway, there you go.
Okay, that's good. So which is them? Which is your friends?
The ones walking.
So these are your friends here, these two people.
Yes.
And then the two people sitting there, who are they?
I don't know. I just made it because it's an anniversary gift. I just kind of made it couples or whatever.
Yeah, because I see there's two, and
yeah, I shouldn't have done that. You're right. I should.
Maybe.
I should
mean,
put
it's
it
okay.
weird. I should.
Well, no. Here's the deal. All right, so here's what you do. All right, so you know, like the 3 ages of man, right? You know, okay. That's what you do. You have 2 children, them when they're little, them when they're whatever middle age, and then you have them again when they're very old. You see this a lot in Renaissance painting, where you have the same person at 3 stages of their life in the same image.
Ooh, that's very deep.
Well, that's what they do. That's what hey, a painting is not a photograph. A painting is literature, right? Painting is art, all right? It's not a snapshot. Painting is a message. A painting is, you know, it's meaning, it's symbolism, right? It's purpose. So yeah, you got 6 people here. All you need to do is make sure that you got them in some kind of
No,
order.
but I don't have 6. The person on the left is an old man.
Wait, this is not 2 people?
No, that's an old man leaning up against a bearded old man.
I thought that
leaning
was 2 figures there.
No,
Yeah,
sorry.
well, all right. So you're going to scratch this guy, and you're going to put 2 kids over here, the
All
2 old
right.
people here. Because that's the other thing. It's like the riddle of the Sphinx. What walks on 4 legs at dawn, 2 legs at midday, and 3 legs in dusk. You know what I'm talking about? So the old people are sitting here because they're quite older, and then the little kids are, running around or whatever, and then these people are just, walking normally. So that's what you do, right? And then you don't tell your friend that. You don't tell her that right away, and then a year later, you tell her, "Did you get the message in my painting?" It's their whole life. It's their whole life that you're showing here in this one image. You're compressing time, right?
Okay,
So
cool.
does that make sense? Okay,
I like it.
That's what you got to do when you're an artist, right? So yeah, but I think the way you handle the red line and all that's fine. It's great. I just I want you to make it meaningful, right? Give them a little something else there to kind of think about. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Shannon. I'm not sure what I'm. Okay, so this looks. It's like a amphitheater. I don't know if you're here, Shannon. You can explain what I'm looking at here. It looks like an outdoor, like stairs in an outdoor setting, almost like an amphitheater or maybe an empty fountain or something. This looks like it's reflections. Maybe it's water. This is water? That's just grass. I'm a little unclear what I'm looking at here.
Steve, was that Evanston?
Just says
Andy, I can tell you what it is.
Dawes Park. There you go. Oh,
It's
yeah.
It's the lagoon. It's
Lagoon.
the lagoon. It's the edge of the lagoon in Evanston by Dawes Park.
All right. So is this foreground is water then?
Yes.
And
I
then
was
this is
there when she painted it.
okay. And this is some kind of a structural staircase thing.
Yeah.
Yes, there's yes.
And this is grass over here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And what is this curving shape here?
Just down by the water. It is like a little amphitheater steps.
Weird.
It's
okay.
steps.
All right. Yeah. I mean, and I like the way the shadow and the light is playing here. This is nicely done. I'm not sure what is it? Is that little Buddha guy? That little head of the Buddha sticking out of the ground?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that thing? I thought those guys are always in a circle, but okay, it's an individual one of those things. I would expect to see that reflected a little more clearly here. I mean, there's a sense of light and shadow that's very, very, it's very clear in terms of, the difference between the brightness and the darkness of this. I would have expected a little bit more blue here in this color because of the color constancy. When the green goes into shadow, it's going to get colder and bluer because the blue sky fills in the light. So I'd expect more blue in that shadow. Yeah, it's such a tiny detail that I think it's really a challenge for the viewer, especially me not knowing what it is, to really understand what they're looking at. I think that the amount of detail is almost pulled in too tight, pictorially speaking. So it might have been better to maybe pull back a little bit or show evidence that this is water by putting something in the water so we can see that it's water. It's just hard for me to read this as water. You told me it's water, so now I understand it's water, but it's a bit of a toss-up. It would have been hard to tell that it's exactly water. But the light here in this architectural element is quite good. I'm just not sure I'm understanding the space all that well on that one. Okay, and then this is some kind of, where is this building? Some kind of Frank Lloyd Wright? What is this?
The Peggy Neubauer.
Oh, right. Okay, sure. Where the butterflies are?
Museum. It's
The
the back wall.
butterfly, the back of it. Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
They let you back there. Didn't the security guards kick you out?
Not me.
They're okay? They let you paint in the back of it? All right, nice. Yeah, it's pretty cool structure. Yeah, you did a nice job. This is like a bridge, like a walking bridge. I mean, the perspective is a little bit unusual here because this walking bridge thing looks like it's going down and then the building is going up. Shouldn't they be following the same perspective line? I would think.
Well, if you say so.
Because are they parallel to each other? I mean.
Yeah, I see what you're saying here. Yeah.
Yeah, something doesn't quite work. It looks like this is almost breaking off, or it's like a separate building or something. So, but your handling is quite nice. Did a good job handling the rocks. No problem with the paint handling, but just the perspective on that looks a little bit hard to figure out on that one. And that's
Got it.
tough. There's a lot of architecture you're dealing with, a lot of perspective. So
Yeah. I always paint things off kilter. That's my thing.
well, okay. I mean, you're
Shouldn't
like,
be, right?
well, you're like Chagall. You're like Mark Chagall. You're a modern day Chagall. So that's okay. Chagall did it. You can do it too. But it comes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the evening. Is like, what is the painting for, right? Are you memorializing a specific place, almost documenting it, or are you
It was the rocks. I was into the rocks.
To the rocks, yeah. Okay, so then you should really focus more on the rocks and forget about this thing. Push the rocks into the picture more and let this thing be less important, because you've given actually 2/3 of your vertical space is this thing and only 1/3 is the rocks. So like, forget about that. Just focus on the rocks and push this over. All right. And forget about the sky. You don't need so much sky then. You just give yourself more rocks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Karen, you got this cool porch view here. And I really like the way you handle these trees. It's a little bit strange without any houses around. You have a street, you got streets, and you got no houses. It looks like the city has been like they haven't built the houses yet or something. So maybe you need a little bit of this. See, I see the houses here. I think you need some of that structure of the human presence. It's a little bit of an echo in this blue here. I guess this is the houses, but they're so faint. They're almost like ghosts, so it's a little bit sad or a little bit spooky. There's something almost dreamlike about this setting with these plots of land that have these ghost houses on them. And maybe there needs to be a little more physical presence. They're just ethereal and a little bit spectral. And the way you handle the trees is pretty cool. You got this pair of trees which seem to be almost like a dance together. They almost seem to be the same tree cloned. Maybe you want a little more variation there. I'm not sure. But you have this twinning going on there, which is kind of interesting. So I don't know, maybe 2 houses, 2 trees or something. Try that. I think I would give that a try. More houses there. Okay, Marcy. Okay, this is a very pretty building. What is this building?
The Chicago History Museum.
From the back? The back.
From the back.
Yeah, from the back.
This weekend they had 2 days of opera back there.
Wow. Okay. I bike back there. There's that Abraham Lincoln sculpture somewhere near here, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. So I like the colors in this. I love the way you handle these dappled shadows. Nice blue color in the shadow and nice golden lime greens in the light. So that really brings out the warmth and versus the coolness of the ground plane. Now you handle these trees with this blue violet color, which also shows up in the buildings. It's a bit of an unusual choice. I think it seems to work pretty well here in the foreground. It's a little bit weird though to bring it into the middle ground, the background, because it flattens out the space.
You're right.
So, you actually bring the same color, and so psychologically you get the same depth. So maybe that wasn't the best thing to do. Maybe you should have gone with a more neutral colors for this middle ground and background. You did a nice job suggesting the architecture, and that's a lot of architecture, and I think you did a pretty good job suggesting it. It gets a little drawn out here. I don't know about this, the railing. That's a lot of really tiny little things. Maybe there's a way to just forget about that railing or something.
Okay.
Or just treat it in a very summary way, because who cares about the railing? It's not that important, but it becomes very important in your picture. Maybe that's saying something psychologically about the railing. I don't know what that says, but.
Well, I edited out the opera singer, so I should edit out the railing.
Well, why don't you put the opera singers and forget the stupid railing? The opera singers. That's there. Look at those people working hard. Yeah, the railing is not that important. You can suggest it, but it's too definitive. It's too delineated. Yeah, but it has a nice mood, and this color juxtaposition of the earth, the earth red with this golden and the lime greens is really nice. Yeah, because it does push that space back nicely from the foreground. So And lastly, you've got a little bit of sky there. You know, it's a little bit, I don't know, it's a little bit, I don't know, I guess it works okay. Yeah, I think it works all right. I don't know, I might have looked for a slightly different solution to the corner over here.
I had it cooler before, and then it was looking too dark, and I made it lighter. But yeah, it needs to be pushed back.
Maybe, yeah. So you see it there. That looks like the camera doing that. Yeah, I know it's a tough one. It just isn't quite resolved there, but other than that, I think it works pretty well. Yeah, you catch the sense of light very nicely there. Okay, Rich Weber.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Well, just the one thing. Okay. All right. So it's a scene. The figures are, okay, you got this two people here in a tent with an American flag. He seems to be working on like a plow or something. I'm not sure. He's a blacksmith. I don't know exactly what's going on there. This person's active. This person is passive. So this person's reading. This person's working. Yeah, it's kind of almost tent, almost military tent kind of thing going on with a horn, gunpowder horn or something. Anybody know?
It says it's scraping the hide.
Oh, scraping the hide. Okay.
I think he meant H.
Oh, there he goes. Yeah. Okay. They're right. So they got the deer skin or whatever. That's what that is. Okay. I thought they were working on like an anvil or something. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it works pretty well. I think you got this nice foreground here dominating the space. You got the flag there. The flag gets a lot of attention in this picture because that red is the only red in the picture. So, you know, if you really want to bring the attention to the hide, maybe you got to bring some warmer colors into the foreground here and let that kind of play off of the reds over here. I mean, that red, I mean, there's like a dead animal there. So, you know, there's not blood obviously on the scene, but if you want to suggest the idea of death, you could bring some red over here to this part of the picture to suggest the killing of the animal. If that's important to you. I mean, that might be something to kind of think about. The background's a little bit too summary. It's too flat. So maybe break this up a little bit. I think the color and the tonality is pretty good, but it just, first of all, the horizon's tilting, which is not so great because the flag is tilting. So there's almost a sense of like the horizon dipping, and there's a kind of a off-kilter quality to this, the shadows and the horizon. There's maybe flatten the horizon and, you know, a little bit more going on here. Just break this up a little bit more, maybe a little bit of sky in there. It's just a little bit too summery, I think. Okay, Julie, that's very nice. And Julie also likes to spy on people's houses, apparently. She's got binoculars and she's spying on these people. I don't know, who are these, what is this building? Some mansion or something?
This is actually from a path, and it's like sort of the whole downtown area across the
downtown.
Across the whole downtown area.
Downtown where?
Riverside, Illinois.
Oh yeah, okay, I know Riverside. Oh okay, I don't usually go downtown. I have family there, but we usually just stay in the residential part with the. So is this Fox and Olmsted as well over here?
What's that?
Fox and Olmsted, the architects. They designed Riverside.
Yeah, this was sort of like a path that goes across the river.
Right. So you know those architects, they designed Central Park in New York. You know that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they made these very twisty, turny. So there's like a winding kind of path that goes through the downtown.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what is that building that you're spying on?
It's a bunch of different buildings. It's like the library, the village hall.
Nice.
It's like the whole downtown from the back.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, I've never been to that part of Riverside. I guess I should have explored it. Yeah, so obviously you're framing it with this foliage, right? It's kind of a horseshoe shape, right? You got the foliage there and you're framing it. And it has that, like I said, it has that kind of sense of, you know, of like, maybe snooping is too strong of a word, but basically there's a sense of like, you're in the bushes and you're taking almost like a spyglass look at that kind of thing. It's a bit, I mean, I don't think Corot would handle it quite that way. But you handle it, I mean, the paint handling is nice. The composition works, it's very effective because you are kind of zeroing in on this building here. But I don't know, I just wonder if maybe compositionally, it would maybe be a little bit psychologically more open if this wasn't so framed by this kind of heavy, kind of, like I said, horseshoe of bushes and stuff. It just feels a little bit surreptitious. I don't know how to describe that, but maybe, I don't know. This is the river here, right? This is the river, right?
Yes.
All right, I don't know. It's maybe more of the river and cut some of this foliage down or something and show us more of the water. I mean, the water is always interesting. People love water. And we're not really getting a good sense of the river. And I saw it in the photograph, the sense of the movement of the river kind of flowing across the picture. But you're just limiting the river to this little triangle here, and it just feels like maybe getting rid of some of this foliage and opening up, showing us more of the water. So we feel like we're not hemmed in. It's a bit claustrophobic, the picture, in that sense. Yeah, but it's the sense of light is great. Now, what are these little guys over here? Like power
phone
lines?
wires, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. And what's the purpose of these in your painting?
I don't know. I guess kind of to show the village, kind of.
Okay, and yeah, maybe you need them. Maybe you don't. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of a tough call because it seems like these buildings are really far away, like visually from us, from the viewer. But these wires seem like they're a little bit closer. They seem like they're almost at the middle ground area. It seems like if the wires were this far away, they'd be so tiny you wouldn't be able to see them. So something about that's a little bit unclear to me. Anyway, but I like the way you handled the structures. Very nicely suggested.
Thanks.
Okay, this is a cool one. All right, so this is, whoops, sorry about that. There we go. I don't know where this is. If anybody knows where this is, it's pretty cool. I'm not sure which sculpture this is, but this is a really great opportunity. It looks like the person here has done a nice job at kind of, well, first of all, you have a lot going on. You got the light here on the sculpture, you got the person, you got the building, you got the landscape and the sky. So quite a bit of, it's quite sophisticated. And I think that this grouping is really interesting of these figures, and then it repeats with this figure over here. It might have been nice to have maybe some figures over here, maybe at least one other figure to kind of juxtapose the art, the sculptural people versus the real people. Maybe a few other people over here to kind of show that difference. And also maybe sorry, what the heck? Sorry about that. Where am I here? It would have been maybe it looks like you're almost hiding the top of that building. So maybe break up this thing and show a little more of the top roof line of the building. It's a little bit weird that it kind of almost like it's being covered up. So that I think compositionally that would be better if you show a little bit of the roof line of the building. Yeah, so you can see it there, and you're like, I don't want to paint the roof line, so I'm just going to cover it. It's a little bit weird because your foliage goes right where the roof line is. I think make that more irregular. All right, so this person, Maureen, you did a little Photoshop work here, right? What's going on here? You cutouts here?
Right.
All right, so is this is this a commission or something? Is this a couple with a baby?
No, it's not.
It's not a commission from a couple that just, but you're.
I heard that you were coming and you do figures, and I thought, well, gee, this one that I'm working on needs some figures, and I put them in.
All right, so who are these people? Is this a couple or something, or they're just regular?
No, I don't think so. So I guess everyone will imagine their own story, and like a collision might happen, but
yes.
Just the activity going on in the Gold Coast.
Okay, all right. So is this like these people are running scared? Is that what they're doing? They're not rushing to each other in love?
They look happy or anything?
I thought they looked like they can't wait to see each other. Like this guy just brought a baby home. And his wife comes out, oh my God, a baby. Oh, awesome. That's so nice of you to buy us a baby.
And he's going to hit the dog. Jump up and... Yeah,
okay. So, I think you handled these figures really nicely. It's a lot more effective than, like it's kind of clever what you did with the Photoshopping, but your painting is 10 times more interesting than the Photoshopping. Like she's really well done here, the way she comes down the stairs. It's really nicely suggested in your painting. The way you handle the architecture is pretty cool, and you got the flowers. Now, again, you have this kind of twinning going on here. So you've got, sorry, if I can, eventually I'll, get these things to work for me, but it's annoying. I have to keep drawing these. So you got this, she's with this and he's with this. So there's like this pairing going on. I don't know if that was conscious or not, but.
Well, what about it?
Well, I don't know. What about it? Like, there's this doubling of everything. So what are you trying to say there?
I just needed somebody to fill that male spot over there. I thought that would be good instead of just her. But I could, and I always wanted to make a painting with that baby carriage with a man.
Yeah, which is good. I think that's really one of the best parts of the picture. Well, I mean, the fact that you've got, like I said, in composition, two, odd numbers are better than evens, right? So, you got this and then this,
in the front,
maybe 3 bushes or something, or I don't know, maybe 3 would have been better. Something to think about. But it does tend to make it, I mean, there is a kind of this gap here that's kind of, this huge gap between the Adam and Eve kind of thing going on there.
Yes, and a huge gap in the brick, right practically in the middle of the picture.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, it is a thought-provoking composition, I have to say. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's pretty good. It's a really fascinating. It's a fascinating picture. I think it's pretty cool. I don't know. Just like the way these things are linked says something to me. I'm not sure what it says. It does tend to. I think it does tend to kind of interrupt the action between the characters a little bit. But I'm having a little trouble explaining exactly why that is. They seem to be stuck behind these bushes. The bushes seem to be blocking them from each other in some weird way.
It was so, blatant, I want, the layers of, so they're just kind of in the background, but they are pretty lively.
Yeah, they are lively. Yeah, it's a cool picture. I like it. Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. All right, so Andrea, what do we got here? Okay, that's looking, okay, rocks and roots. Yeah, okay, well, it's very, your paint handling is really exciting. It's really kind of very gestural, very bold. It's a little hard to make out exactly where the roots and the rocks are, like where one begins and the other one ends. So it's pretty abstract. I mean, it has, the feeling of, some abstract expressionist kind of art. Compositionally, it's kind of hard to read. It's pretty, there's a lot of surface, here, but there's not a lot of value contrast or design contrast. I mean, there's these kind of bluish shapes here, but everything kind of seems to be pushing close to the picture plane. So except for this strong vertical here and then a little bit of the vertical there, it's it's sort of an all over composition. I don't really have anything else to add to it. I mean, I think it's fine. It seems to, it seems to work pretty well. It's got a lot of energy. It's got a lot of juice. You're not really, I mean, there's a sense of light and shadow, a little bit light here and kind of shadow over there. But other than that, it's kind of a mysterious picture. It's all really kind of about the gesture, it seems to me. Okay, Elizabeth Gear. Okay, so this is some kind of like birch. Is this like a farm for birch trees or something? Not sure what I'm looking at there.
No, it's a Tuscan vineyard.
Oh, it's a Tuscan vineyard. Okay, so what are these? These are vines?
These are vines it's in like October when the leaves are falling off them. So.
Oh, they're very vertical. In America, they seem like they're a lot stumpier. They don't seem to be so like military soldiers. Tuscan, wow. So that's pretty cool. So now the feeling in yours is, I mean, it's somewhat ambiguous. These are almost conifer trees or poplar-like looking things, right?
Yeah, I sort of, they don't look terribly vine-like, I think. It's sort of, they ended up a bit too sort of dark and structural.
Well, I don't know. I actually like them better than the photograph reference.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, the photo reference is, I mean, it's
I wanted to make them more interesting because, the leaves are falling off the other ones. So
yeah.
Contrast.
Well, it's just that in the whole thing, like the individual shapes are impossible to discern from the photo. Yeah. But here it's clear. I can see that clearly each stalk is its own thing. Much better, much better. The shapes on this is quite good. I mean, it almost looks like an American regionalist painting, like a Grant Wood or something. You know Grant Wood, right?
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, so it has a kind of feeling of Grant Wood with the rolling hills and stuff. It doesn't look all that Tuscan here.
Okay.
But the way you handle the ground here and the ground plane, the diagonals, and I love these shapes. And the color is great, and the modeling's really cool. It maybe transitions a little too quickly to nothing here. Maybe need a little more rendering there.
More dark, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit more modeling and kind of faded out, but very nice. Yeah, I think it's really cool. And then this kind of building overseeing the whole thing. Yeah, it's pretty cool. These are great. These are really great. Yeah, more opportunity to bring that golden color out a little bit more, maybe a little more golden color over here. This is a little bit, gets a little bit boring right there. That golden juxtaposing and the kind of like hitting it every once in a while would have been nice, I think.
Okay.
But I like it. Yeah, very nice. Charming.
Thank
Charming
you.
work. Jen Stanley, this is you, Jen. Okay, wait, that's, okay, that picture looks like it's been cropped a little bit there. We're almost at the last one. All right, so, yeah, it's a really beautiful spot there you're painting in. And it looks like some really bold, kind of decisive knife and brush activity there. You know, something about the color in this photograph just makes me not trust the color in the photo. It seems like this is very yellow photo. It doesn't look accurate in terms of color. But, you know, in terms of design, it's cool. This tree, you know, brings, you know, pushes forward against the banks. It's kind of supported by these darker shapes here. And the sky, the lighter shapes here. So you got a nice sense of focal point there. You know, the handling is just really loose and very bold. But I feel like I'm not seeing the whole picture somehow. It looks like it's cropped. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. The picture's fine. It works pretty well. You got, you know, the bare trees and the full leaf trees, the bank here. You know, maybe there's more reflection that you could put in. It seems like there's definitely reflection here, but it's kind of brackish or something. And maybe a little more clarity of this color, bringing it down here. Again, you could look at Levitan. If you look at Levitan, you'll see that he does a beautiful job at some of that. And I think it's our last one. Okay, yeah, I think that's the last one. All right.
Who is Levitan?
Isaac Levitan is a Russian landscape painter. Isaac Levitan. So there's a couple of really famous landscape painters in Russia. Well, there's a lot, but Levitan. There's also Shishkin, who's very famous. Shishkin, I forget his first name. Levitan's great. Levitan's an amazing painter. I like him better than Shishkin. Shishkin's a little more earlier, a little more romantic. Levitan's slightly more impressionistic. Levitan's a great artist. His landscapes are beautiful. All right, so I think, wait, this is August 31. Okay, so Deborah Page Jackson. All right, so you've got 2 figures here and 2 figures there. So, all right, so again, when I talked about that 3 ages of man or humans, you have like the young kids here and the older people in the background. So this is like, you know, this is the distance. This is their future. They're going to get older, right? As they get, you know, eventually they're going to, you know, age. And so here we see the youth and here we see the age in the background. So kind of a nice twinning of those, you know, the ages with the scale of the picture, the brashness of the youth in the foreground and the kind of reticence and the retiring of the older people in the background. Yeah, this is nicely handled. I mean, I like the poses, the kind of mirroring of the poses is really cool. So it repeats that shape there. And the relaxed quality of these figures here is really, really cool. I would say that like the edge here of the horizon could be maybe a little bit straighter. Maybe, I don't know. It's a little bit unclear what's going on in the background. Is this a flat surface? Is this a rising surface? Is there mountains here? This seems to be maybe trees or mountains. The space back here is really not very clearly delineated. So if that means anything to you, then you can work on that and kind of clarify that, because it's a little like, here's the grass and suddenly it seems to rise in a vertical or a sharp angle, but I know it's probably not doing that. So there's a little bit something about the space that's not very clear. But yeah, the composition is pretty cool in terms of the diagonal leading us to these people over here. And then this shape repeating the umbrella shapes. That's a nice repetition over there. You know, this leading edge of this picnic blankets maybe a little bit overworked, and maybe it should be a little straighter. The curving here does pick up the curves here. So if you intended that, that's great. If you didn't intend it, then maybe just make it go straighter on the flatness of the surface, because it's suggesting that the ground is bending or curving, and I don't know if you intend that. It kind of depends on what you intended. Yeah. So then that it's quite nice. Maybe a little more cropping of her forehead with the umbrella here, so we are clear that the umbrella is in front of her forehead as opposed to like hitting the top of her head. So that's all. And just maybe a little more bold color. The red should be stronger. Maybe it's just a photograph, but brighter, stronger colors. Maybe especially this one. This red should be stronger than this one because this is in shadow. So this one would be brighter and this one could be duller to kind of suggest space. Okay, Mary, I think that's everyone.
Yeah, well, Andy, this has been terrific. I really appreciate your comments, and I personally really appreciate the thoughts about the intention of each of the paintings and the you know, just your thinking around that. It's very helpful the way that you ask the questions.
Painting, you know, the landscape is you're still painting your personality. You know, the person's still there, so the landscape always ends up saying something about the artist. So you can never escape that. You know, it's very important. Any
other words for us, Andy?
Just keep painting, right? That's the main thing. Keep painting and plan. Do a little thumbnail sketch before you actually start putting the brush to the canvas. Do some thumbnail sketches so you got your composition the way you want it before you commit. That's important.
I actually would like to ask you one more question about intent. That I have a sense that there's almost this psychological aspect to all this, in terms of, you know, why are you thinking about a painting? Why are you out? Why are you? And there's something about the way you ask the questions around those things that I felt took it to it, as somebody said, deeper place, a deeper meaning. And I just wonder if there's anything else as you're thinking about that, the symbolism or the meaning, and, you know, kind of knowing your own self in a way as you're putting all this together.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can never really know yourself totally fully, right? I mean, it's something that comes with time and age. I think when people get to be older, they probably have a better sense of themselves retrospectively. And that goes with the painting. And the painting is basically a diary of your life. So it's a kind of cumulative thing. You see the paintings build up, and over time you start to see what really mattered to you and what was important and what's not important anymore. You see that in the paintings. So I don't know, it's an ongoing process, really, but you should be asking yourself all the time, like, why am I doing this subject? How does it relate to my body of work as a whole? I think that's important because you want to build your artistic identity, and, you know, you want people to recognize your work as your work, not just some generic painting, right? So you should start thinking about giving it your own personal spin, and that means choosing your subjects wisely and choosing your approach wisely.
Wow, thank you so much, Andy.
Sure. Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime.
Very valuable.
Good. Well, we're gonna have you back, Andy.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, have a good evening.
Good night, everybody.
All right, good night.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Right, sure.